Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This is Shamshad Ali, Department of Technology, Saraj University, Peshawar. Today we are going to learn about the environmental sustainability. This is our week 9th after the midterm exam, and our lecture is 9th, 7th semester, 4th year, BSc Engineering Technology, 7. You can access this lecture at portal.soot.edu.pk. So let's begin our today's lecture. First of all, we will learn about the principles of environmental sustainability. The term environment is used to describe our surroundings, both the natural physical surroundings such as the land, water, climate, plants and animals. As we have learned in our first lecture, that the environment is basically the surrounding that we can see and the places in which we live with their social, cultural, economic and spiritual dynamics, usually called the human environment, where you can socially interact with people, culturally, economically and spiritually. And this is called the human environment. People depend on the natural environment for survival. For example, our food, medicine, shelter, fuels, and clothing are all sourced from it. For example, farmer crops relies on adequate water, sunshine, fertile soil, unpolluted air and soil, and balanced insect life in microorganisms. Without any one of these, the crop is threatened, and the farmer may not have enough food to feed the family or to sell in the market. For his crop, the main thing is the adequate water, sunshine, fertile soil, and much more. People in urban areas are also dependent on the environment, but perhaps in a less direct way. Their food may come indirectly through markets and shops. They usually buy rather than collect fuel for cooking. Manufacture products relying on the environment for the raw materials such as the wood or plant fibers, energy, usually from fossil fuels such as oil and diesel, to work the machinery. Water, factories often use a lot of water for manufacturing processes. Transport with land, by road, and rail across ocean and on rivers to customers. Human interaction with the environment often has a negative impact, as we previously studied that the environment is mainly polluted by the human activity. Sometimes poor management of one resource leads to the environmental problems, such as over exploitation of the forests, reserve and increased deforestation, which can lead to landslides, flooding and soil erosion. There could be a loss of biodiversity or soil fertility if the clearing is not managed properly. Here we can see in this picture that basically the surrounding environment is polluted by the human activity, transportation, and here we can see the industries. But in this picture you can see that you can sustain your environment. You can fix some principles and rules regulation to sustain your environment. The first one is the poverty in the environment. Since the Industrial Revolution in Europe in the 19th century, human economic activity has consumed resources at a faster rate than the earth can replenish them, causing damage to ecosystem, decreased biodiversity and climate change. The ongoing desire to become wealthier and consume more has meant that people have used the environment for their own benefits without considering the negative effects. For example, land is being farmed too intensively, which can result in lower crop yields, loss of soil nutrients, and increased desertification. As you can see that in one season we can harvest 2 to 3 crops from the land, from the soil. So by doing this type of activity, the fertility of the soil decreases with the passage of time. High demand for water is drying up many rivers and lakes. As we have learned that the overpopulation is the main cause of the environmental issues. So that's why overpopulation results the high demand for the population, and thus they may result in a drying of the rivers and lakes. Industry is causing pollution. This includes liquid waste often disposed untreated into rivers and ocean, affecting marine life. Solid waste often dumped or buried in the ground, affecting human health through pollution and diseases spread by insects, pests, and worms attracted by the waste, and air pollution, which can change climate locally and globally as well. The second one is sustainable development. Our dependence on a sustainable environment has been the focus of a number of international developments. In 1982, the World Commission on Environment and Development was established to look at the links between economic development and the environment. The report that was produced defined sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In 1918, the Rio Earth Summit, as it became known, was the largest ever gathering of the heads of the continent to discuss the environmental issues. It resulted in historic agreements about a number of key principles related to sustainable development that will help shape policies and practices over the last 2 decades. Economic development and environmental protection should be integrated. There should be more equity within countries and between the rich and poor countries. Those regulations will be same for the rich countries as well as for the poor countries. Scientific and technical knowledge related to sustainable development should be improved. Government should protect citizens from environmental problems. The polluter should pay to restore damage caused to the environment. The polluter means the industries, and those people which are going to pollute the environment. Environmental impact studies should be carried out before undertaking projects that are likely to have negative environmental consequences. In our next lecture, we will learn about the environmental impact assessment. So here they are going to clarify that environmental impact assessment should be taken before undertaking projects. Recognize the particular roles of the women who often play a vital role in environmental management where young people basically, so that the needs of the future generation can be met. Indigenous people, due to their knowledge and traditional practices related to environmental management or environmental footprints. Stewardship of ALLAH should be considered within all areas of our work in life. We are having an influence on our environment. Often, this is a negative influence using our resources or causing pollution. But we can also take action to ensure that our way of life has a positive impact on it. Most things we do in life involve interaction with the environment, whether directly or indirectly. For example, providing a meal requires energy to grow the food and cook it. Catching a bus or driving a vehicle results in air pollution. When we walk through mud, we leave footprints behind. As we walk through life, we leave behind a mark on the environment, environmental footprints. Some of us are like elephants, trampling down the vegetation and leaving a trail of damage behind in terms of our consumption, pollution, and use of energy. Other are like antelopes walking delicately and lightly leaving behind a trail that can hardly be seen. Or environmental footprints. This footprint can cause environmental degradation. It has consequences for other people. Climate change is a key example. Our use of fossil fuel and deforestation is causing climate change, which has negative consequences for people all around the world, but it is poor people who are suffering the most. We now look at two key environmental resources, water and forest. We then look at the issue of climate change, its causes, impacts, and all responses. This will build a foundation for the following sections. Understanding water resources. Firstly, we will have to understand the water resources. Plants and animals need water. Survival on this planet is dependent on the water quality. Water as well as the quality of the water. It is so precious that it is predicted that future wars will be related to control over and access to water. In future, those countries will survive which have water or access to the water. More than 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. So most of it is in the ocean and too salty to drink. Some of Earth's water is held in glaciers and polar ice caps. Less than 1% of the Earth's water is fresh liquid water, held in the lakes, rivers, or below the ground. The sun heats the water in ocean, lakes, rivers, and soil. Some of this water evaporates into the atmosphere as water vapor. Cooler temperature in the atmosphere causes the vapor to turn into clouds. The water particles in the clouds collide, grow, and then fall out of the sky as rain. Hail and snow and other type back into the ocean or onto the land. This was basically the hydrology kind of and the mean precipitation. Understanding water resources. Climate change is damaging the water cycle on which we are dependent. Due to climate change, this cycle has been disturbed. Increased temperatures are causing the polar ice caps to melt and seawater to heat up and expand, resulting in rising sea levels, which may result in the tsunami and etc. Rising sea level which threaten low-lying countries such as Bangladesh. Melting glaciers will cause short-term flooding and longer-term water shortage, often in areas of high population along the floodplains of rivers such as the Indus and Brahmaputra in Asia. Some areas of the world are experiencing more rain, sometimes falling in intensive storm and causing flooding, thus damage to the infrastructures. And other areas are experiencing less rain, sometimes leading to drought. Understanding forest resources. The second one is trees have important natural and human benefits because they provide oxygen for the livings. They help to regulate the water cycle as well because they act as a sponge, soaking up rain and releasing water at regular intervals. Forests help to prevent flooding, erosion, and landslide after heavy rain. Trees also provide and protect natural habitats for animals and plants. As water have some inhabitants, thus forests also have some inhabitants. Forests cover around 30% of the world's total land area. Yet according to the World Resources Institute in the USA, in the last 300 years, the global forest area has decreased by nearly half. Mean the 300 years before, this percentage was 60%. This is due to the clearing of land for agriculture. Why? Because the overpopulation. Due to the overpopulation, you need more crops to go to harvest. So for that purpose, you are going to clean your forests and converted those lands for the agriculture purpose, for the roads and settlements, and due to high demand for timber. Deforestation affects the local climate because forests influence the regional distribution of the rain as part of the life process. Trees release moisture into the atmosphere, contributing to the formation of clouds as well. Responding to climate change. Now, what is our response to the change in the climate? There are two main responses available to us in responding to climate change. Reduce greenhouse gas emission to limit further climate change. This is sometimes called the mitigation and involves cutting the emission of the wealthy countries and rapidly developing countries such as China, India, Brazil, and enabling poor countries to develop in a sustainable way without high greenhouse gas emission. Section 6 looks at how advocacy can support these changes. Help communities to cope with the impact of climate change. This is sometimes called adaptation. Even if greenhouse gas emissions were completely stopped today, the effects of the emission release over previous decades will affect the climate for about 2 centuries to come. Climate change adaptation is therefore essential. Here we introduce the main ways in which vulnerable communities can adapt to the effects of climate change. Some reduce the impact of natural hazards such as the building dikes, walls against sea level rise. Communities that are vulnerable to flooding can grow trees on slopes to reduce soil erosion by slowing down the runoff of the water during heavy rains. Some adaptation methods reduce the vulnerability of the community's climate change, such as the changing agriculture practices to make the most of the rainfall or introducing alternative ways of the earning a living. Farmers can change the type of crops they grow to take account of different weather patterns or lack of water. In some situations, irrigation could be introduced to ensure that the water is available when needed. Rainwater could be harvested using tanks. As in our country, in Karachi, project has been done on the harvesting of the rainwater. They harvest the rainwater from the top floors and they make tanks in the basement. The rainwater is being collected in those tanks, and through some electrical energy, mechanical energy, this water is then used for the purpose of the cleaning of the house and the washing clothes and for the washing kitchen utensils, etc. Other method reduces the damage caused by the climate change, such as constructing buildings that can withstand flooding or bridges that take account of the sea level rise. So this is it for today's. Hope you will learn something. In next class, inshallah, we will learn about the environmental impact assessment, a process which has been conducted before the proposal of the project, or when proposal is being accepted. After that, the environmental impact assessment has been conducted. So thank you so much. If you have any query, so let me know on